What if I told you that the labs your doctor has been ordering, that they are, unfortunately, completely worthless? I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but I've worked with hundreds of women, and I've been in the functional medicine space for well over a decade, and I can confidently say that most do not know how to collect the right labs, let alone how to interpret them, and frankly, it's keeping you sick. I'm Anna, a functional medicine nurse practitioner, and today we're going to talk about the 3 reasons why your labs are failing you, and most importantly, what you need to do and look out for in order to actually get results. Why you've been spinning your wheels for the last few years, and what actually needs to happen to help you feel like yourself again. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. For privacy purposes, we'll call her Nicole, after my husband. Her story is real, honest, and heartbreaking. Nicole came to me after seeing 6 specialists over the course of 2 decades. Let that sink in. Not 1, not 2, but 6 specialists. She had been to a GI doctor who did an endoscopy. They said everything was clear. They gave her some antacids and sent her on her merry way. She saw an endocrinologist for her thyroid. All they did was look at her TSH. They didn't even see if she had any antibodies present, and they said that everything looked normal. Her heart rate was also elevated. So naturally, she saw a cardiologist who didn't do any other additional tests, and they just wanted to put her on a rhythm regulator. Then there was the menopause expert. And I use this term loosely because unfortunately, they also did not ask about her lifestyle, sleep, supplements, diet, how she manages her stress. And the solution was to put her on birth control to help balance out her hormones. She's 60, and if you didn't know by now, you probably are saying, dang, the system really is broken. Everyone was telling Nicole it was one thing, and no one was communicating with one another. So she was getting bits and pieces of information, but here's the problem. They were all looking at a single piece of the puzzle. Nobody was looking at the body as a whole. Nobody was asking Nicole the right questions. So here's what happened when she finally came to see me. In the first 10 minutes of our intro consultation, and this was before we even collected any blood work, I was able to connect certain dots for her that she'd been trying to figure out for years. We were just talking about lifestyle. Basically, what did she eat? How were her stress levels throughout the day? Sleep patterns, and so on. She stopped me mid-conversation and said that in the first 10 minutes, she felt like she understood what was happening inside of her body that she has been trying to figure out for the last 20 years. And we hadn't even looked at her labs or other tests at this point. Within just 6 weeks of working together, she was able to feel so much better. And a lot of the symptoms that she was complaining about initially had completely gone away or subsided, so much so that they were no longer a problem. So how is that possible? How are the experts missing the most obvious symptoms? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. There are 3 major reasons why your labs are essentially worthless with how they're being done right now. But that can change. And once you understand these 3 things, you're going to see your health and the healthcare system, for that matter, in a whole different light. Reason number 1, your doctor doesn't have context. That comes from you. Here's the truth. Blood work without context is just numbers on a page. It really doesn't mean much. To properly interpret labs, you need to understand the patient's lifestyle, their stress levels, their diet, how they exercise, sleeping habits, if they're taking any prescriptions, supplements. You need to ask the real important questions. They have the information. You just need to pull it out. As a practitioner, this is our job. But unfortunately, most practitioners just don't have time for that. And maybe you get 7 minutes and then you're on your merry way. Let me give you an example. I'll ask my patients very specific questions. For instance, are you having any ringing in the ears? Most of my clients never volunteer this small piece of information because they find it irrelevant, or it happens infrequently and it's just not their biggest pain. But typically when I ask this, almost every woman is like, oh, yes, that's me. I have ringing in the ears. This is a clue. Or I'll ask something like this. Do you have a rash maybe that developed under your rib cage? And many times this is something obviously I can't see, but they frequently will tell me yes, and it started when XYZ happened. Or maybe even there was an eczema flare, something that, again, is not a big pain point, but relevant. Or here's a big one. How's your sleep? Such a simple question, right? And it gives us so much information. A lot of times my patients will either tell me that they're having difficulty falling asleep, or maybe they're waking up in the middle of the night. Asking what time in the middle of the night is also giving us context. And in Nicole's case, I asked her specifically, okay, is there anything that you've done that has actually made your sleep better? And she did start taking Zyrtec before bedtime, and that helped her sleep through the night. Bingo. Right there, I knew she was having histamine issues. She was getting inflammation on her skin via a rash. She was having ringing in the ears, which can also be a sign of some type of inflammation in the body. She was waking up in the middle of the night, which is typically when there are histamine dumps occurring. And when she took Zyrtec, she felt better. We had an answer. The patient has the information. You have the information, but nobody's asked you the right questions to help reveal what those problems really are, those clues. And that's exactly why you need to work with a practitioner that understands that and that can put the pieces together for you, because that's not your job. If your doctor is only focused on your heart, they're not interested in the rash on your rib cage or the ringing in your ears. They're only looking at heart-specific issues. So they're missing a massive piece of the puzzle. Your clues are there, but you as the patient may not always see them. And unfortunately, most doctors are just not asking the right questions. It's our job as practitioners to ask the right questions, collect the right data, and then put all the dots together for you to make sense of it. Which brings me to reason 2. They're not collecting enough of the right data. When your PCP orders comprehensive labs, you're getting the data that insurance covers, which is minimal, to say the least. And if you go to a specialist, it's even more isolated to that particular specialist. So again, if you're going to a cardiologist, they're only looking at the heart. They're not looking at your thyroid. They're not interested about that. When you go to an endocrinologist, they may look at brief markers of your thyroid, but they don't care about what's going on in your gut and how that may be impacting your thyroid function. Nobody is really putting the puzzle pieces together because every single individual has a different fragment or different piece of the puzzle. So you're getting isolated data. And here's what most people don't realize. It's not just about blood work. To truly understand what's happening in the body, especially for women during perimenopause and menopause, you need not only comprehensive hormones, but you need to test the adrenals. You need to look at the thyroid in a full picture. You need to look at nutrients and vitamins, inflammation markers, insulin markers, gut testing, and sometimes even things like heavy metals, mold, or even genetic markers to give us better insight as far as what's going on in the body. When we work with patients, we look at everything. We're not just checking off boxes for insurance. We're getting a full picture of exactly what's happening in your body. So we're no longer slapping on a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage. You deserve to understand what is going on and get a root cause approach. And by the way, if you want to know exactly the tests that I run with my patient, you can take a look at my free 7-day hormone reset guide. You can find it in the description below, and it'll help you kind of get the ball rolling until you can get all of your ducks in a row. And bringing me to reason number 3, they're not interpreting the labs correctly. So let's say you've got a doctor, they're asking you really good questions, they actually did get comprehensive data, and then they go to put the puzzle pieces together. And here's the problem with that. Most practitioners use outdated or very broad reference ranges. Essentially, they're looking at the average and not really what's considered optimal. And you probably have noticed that when you look at lab markers where normal could be all the way down here, but also if it's all the way up here, every person is different. What is normal for you may not be normal for me, but there is a range that's considered optimal. And I don't know about you, but I don't want you to be average. I want you to feel amazing. So many abnormals are actually being labeled as normal because they fall within that conventional range. So a lot of people are walking around with things that are slightly off when it could have been addressed a lot sooner had they addressed it when those markers were in that normal range. So now down the road, they've got all these problems that seemingly came out of nowhere. They didn't come out of nowhere. There were signs all along. You just didn't have the right practitioner interpreting that information. When I look at labs, I'm not just looking at, did it fall within a range? What I'm really doing is seeing, is it in an optimal area that aligns with your goals? And what I am seeing in your labs, is it aligning with your symptoms and your lifestyle? If you're a woman that's stressed out and you're juggling work, life, husband, and kids, I'm not going to be surprised when your cortisol levels come back not where they need to be. I expect that. It aligns with the presentation. But more importantly, I know exactly what to do about it and how to address it because I have context and I have data. I'm taking into account your low energy in the morning, the crash in the afternoon, the poor sleep, the cravings, the weight gain around your midsection. All of that is giving me clues, and it is merely confirmed in your blood work. And this is exactly why we're considered a one-stop shop for our patients. You're not bouncing around between multiple specialists and practitioners who aren't communicating with one another. Instead, you're working with a team that has the full picture, is asking you the right questions to get that information, the clues, the context, and also knows how to interpret all of that to create a customized and personalized plan to get you to your goals once and for all. So here's what I want you to take away from this. If you've been told that your labs are normal, but you don't feel normal and you feel like something is off, it's not in your head. The system is broken, and you need a practitioner who takes the time to ask you the right questions, collects the right data, and also who knows how to put it all together and interpret it for you in an easily digestible format. You deserve better than just being shuffled between practitioner and practitioner, suffering along the way and not knowing what all is going on in your body. You deserve answers. You deserve to feel amazing. And don't settle for less, ladies. If this resonated with you, do me a favor and click the subscribe button so you don't miss future videos where I break down exactly what's going on in your body and what is going on with your health. And remember that free 7-day hormone reset guide is waiting for you in the description section below. It's a great first step to start feeling better and to figure out your next move. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.